Hello, good morning, and a warm welcome to Adbn News at 7. I am Chief ICPC to investigate the activities of the fictitious Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, PFIPC, ordering the probe to be completed within 30 days. The president said the PFIPC was never established by the federal government and has no legal or official backing. The investigation follows allegations that one Adbn Matthew falsely presented himself as the Director General of the Council and claimed to be a presidential appointee. The ICPC will investigate alleged forged appointment letters and government documents, the use of the false appointment to obtain official recognition and diplomatic support, including visa application, facilitation, as well as the opening of the bank accounts in the names of purported government agencies. President Tinubu also directed the ICPC to identify anyone who may have facilitated the alleged scheme, including public officials, private individuals, financial institutions, and intermediaries. He further ordered the Commission to recommend measures to prevent similar abuses, while directing all federal ministries, departments, and agencies to cooperate fully with the investigation. He stressed that anyone found culpable should face the full weight of the law. Meanwhile, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has shifted focus to economic development, urging the leadership of the African Export-Import Bank, Adbn, to deepen its support for Africa's industrialization agenda and unlock investments that will drive trade, create jobs, and accelerate sustainable economic growth across the continent. President Tinubu made the call while receiving an Adbn Bank delegation led by its president, Dr. George Elumbi, at the State House in Abuja. He said Africa must move beyond discussions to practical action by harnessing its human, financial, and natural resources to promote industrialization, value addition, and expanded intra-African trade. The president said his administration's reforms, including the removal of fuel subsidy and unification of exchange rates, were necessary to tackle corruption and stabilize the economy. He also urged the bank to increase investments in solid minerals, manufacturing, and agriculture, particularly cocoa, palm oil, and other value chains, while partnering with the Bank of Agriculture to boost production. President Tinubu added that the creation of a Federal Ministry of Livestock Development was designed to turn the long-standing farmer-herder conflict into economic opportunities through increased investment in livestock, cotton, textiles, and garment production. Adbn Bank President Dr. George Elumbi said the bank has invested between $15 and $20 billion in Nigeria over the past 5 years and has committed an additional $2 billion to support the country's cotton and garment industry. He added that the bank is also backing major projects, including the African Medical Center of Excellence in Abuja, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, and the Kano-Maradi Railway. As efforts to strengthen accountability in public institutions continue, the House of Representatives Public Accounts Committee has summoned the Accountant General of the Federation and 6 ministries, departments, and agencies over their failure to honor repeated invitations and provide documents required for legislative oversight. The committee said the Office of the Accountant General is expected to maintain a cooperative relationship with the National Assembly, particularly on matters of public financial management and accountability. It noted that despite several correspondences in recent months, the Accountant General had neither appeared before the committee nor adequately responded to its requests. Lawmakers have now directed the Accountant General to appear in person on Monday, July 13th. The committee also summoned the accounting officers of 6 ministries, departments, and agencies, including the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, the Federal Cooperative College, Ibadan, the Cocoa Research Institute of Nigeria, and the Federal Ministries of Education, Innovation, Science and Technology, and Police Affairs. Lawmakers warned that constitutional and parliamentary measures will be taken against any public official who fails to honor the invitation, reaffirming their commitment to transparency, accountability, and prudent management of public resources. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has arrested Professor Bello Abubakar over the alleged abuse of a court-approved medical visit granted to former Kaduna State Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai. The commission said the medical visit approved to allow El-Rufai see his personal physician at the National Hospital Abuja was allegedly used for an unauthorized political meeting instead of a private consultation. According to the ICPC, photographs circulated on social media showed the former governor meeting with Professor Bello Abubakar, ADC governorship candidate Isa Ashiru Kudan, and others, despite a Kaduna State High Court scheduling July 6, 7, and 8 for the accelerated hearing of the criminal charges against him. The ICPC described the incident as a violation of the court-approved arrangement and an abuse of the privilege granted to the defendant. It said Professor Bello Abubakar was arrested for allegedly making false statements while investigations continue. The commission added that it would report the alleged breach to the trial court, stressing that it remains committed to protecting the rights of suspects but will not tolerate the misuse of privileges granted during investigations. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, says the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is not responsible for flooding in parts of Lagos, insisting the project is designed to improve drainage and reduce flood risks. Speaking during an inspection of the project alongside members of the National Assembly and other stakeholders, Umahi said the highway incorporates modern drainage infrastructure to enhance the evacuation of storm water. He attributed the flooding to blocked drainage channels, indiscriminate refuse disposal, and violations of environmental regulations. The minister said the federal government is working with the Lagos state government on dredging and other flood control measures, warning that structures obstructing drainage channels will be removed. He also announced the deployment of 40 personnel to protect the highway from vandalism and illegal refuse dumping, assuring residents that environmental concerns along the project's corridor will continue to receive attention. The Kaduna State Police Command has arrested 6 suspects over the mob killing of 2 innocent travelers at Gidankalu village in Birnin Yero, Igabi local government area of the state. The victims were allegedly mistaken for kidnappers and lynched by an angry mob while traveling to visit a sick relative. Police said the victims, Muhammad Usani and Aliyu Muhammad, both from Umar village in Igabi local government area, were traveling on a motorcycle to Tudunwada, Zaria, when residents became suspicious after seeing them on a new motorcycle and accused them of being thieves. According to the police public relations officer, DSP Mansour Hassan, the 2 men abandoned the motorcycle and tried to explain themselves but were chased, beaten to death, and lynched. Even though some of the attackers reportedly recognized them, police operatives from the Birnin Yero division later arrested 6 suspects, including Abdullahi Maikalu Kigo, while investigations continue to identify other persons involved. The command said the suspects have confessed to their involvement in the attack, and Commissioner of Police Rabiu Muhammad condemned the mob action as criminal and unacceptable, warning that anyone who takes the laws into their own hands will be prosecuted. He urged members of the public to report suspected criminals to security agencies rather than resort to jungle justice, stressing that every suspect is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. Governor Abdullahi Sule has called for accurate population and demographic data to ensure fair revenue allocation to states and local governments across the country. He made the call while receiving officials of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission at the Government House in Lafia, where the commission flagged off its nationwide data verification exercise. Governor Sule said Nasarawa State has witnessed rapid population growth, particularly in Karu local government area, making it imperative for the state to receive its fair share of federal allocation based on verified data. The governor commended President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms, saying increased federal allocations have enabled the state to execute major infrastructure projects without borrowing.
We are not asking for any special favor. We are diversifying into so many other areas. We just want to be able to know this is where we are. That's all. Not continue to think big if we are not having the correct information, about us.
Leader of the RMAFC delegation, Waziri Hassan, said the nationwide verification exercise is aimed at updating data used in the revenue allocation formula to reflect current realities across the federation.
The outcome of this exercise will have significant implications for the federation as a whole and for your state in particular. Count on your invaluable support and cooperation. Today, we can build a more equitable and responsive revenue allocation system that truly reflects the reality and aspiration of our people.
The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission says the exercise is part of the ongoing review of Nigeria's revenue allocation formula to promote fairness, equity and transparency in the distribution of national and natural resources. In Akwa Ibom State, the House of Assembly has passed the State Internal Revenue Service Law, Office of the Public Defender Law, and the State Water Users Association Regulation Law. Speaker of the House, Right Honorable Udeme Otong, declared the bills passed following the presentation of reports by the chairman of the relevant House committees and their consideration by lawmakers during plenary. Adbn's correspondent David Isang reports.
Taking a break from the ongoing local government tour, members of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly reconvened on Tuesday for legislative business.
Manage, operate, and maintain the water and...
Shortly after considering motions, Chairman of the House Committee on Rural Development and Public Utilities, Honorable Asukwan Nana, presented the committee's report on the Water Regulation Agency Bill.
Manage water supply in their area of operations. B. Manage, operate, and maintain the water and irrigation infrastructure within its area of operation. C. Provide water to its members.
Chairman of the House Committee on Judiciary, Justice and Public Petitions, Honorable Anefiok Atta, presented a report on the Office of the Public Defender Establishment Bill, which seeks to provide legal assistance to vulnerable citizens.
B. Ensure access to justice for indigent and vulnerable persons who are unable to afford legal representation. Protect and promote the constitutional rights and fundamental freedoms of persons requiring legal assistance.
Also, Honorable Itoroba presented reports on the harmonization of taxes and the regulation of the Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service to promote efficient administration.
The committee observed that the bill, when enacted, will eliminate multiple taxation and illegal collections, thereby preventing taxpayers from being charged similar taxes by different tiers of government. In the composition of Local Government Revenue Committee, the two non-governmental members of the Revenue Committee should possess relevant professional qualifications in finance or related fields.
Following deliberations by legislators at Committee of the Whole, the Speaker adopted the committee's recommendations and declared the bills read for the third time.
Accordingly, a bill for a law to provide for the establishment and regulation of Water Users Association in Akwa Ibom State and for matters connected thereof be read the third time and passed into law. Bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the Office of the Public Defender and for other matters connected thereof be read the third time and passed into law. Accordingly, a bill for a law to establish the Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service for efficient administration and collection of internally generated revenue and for matters connected with is read the third time and is being passed into law.
The clerk was then directed to communicate the decision of the chambers to the executive governor of Akwa Ibom State. David Isong, Adbn News.
In a separate development, the Akwa Ibom State government has been urged to intensify sensitization and capacity building programs to educate farmers on the benefits and proper application of organic manure as a sustainable alternative to inorganic fertilizers. The resolution followed a motion moved during Tuesday's plenary by the member representing Ibom State constituency, Honorable Moses Essien, who called for a gradual shift away from the use of inorganic fertilizers by farmers. Honorable Essien argued that excessive use of inorganic fertilizers contributes to environmental pollution through the leaching of harmful substances, including heavy metals, resulting in soil degradation and other ecological challenges.
Worried that the use of inorganic fertilizers contributes to environmental pollution through the leaching of harmful substances, including heavy metals, into water bodies, thereby causing soil toxicity, water pollution, and posing high risk of disease to public health through transfer to humans via food chain. Worried that exposure to such contaminants through the food chain has been linked to serious health conditions, including kidney damage.
Following deliberations, Speaker of the House adopted the recommendations and directed the House Committee on Food and Nutrition to communicate the resolution to the Executive Governor for necessary action.
What we want is people to have food on their table. And how do we control that? Is the ministry to help by educating our farmers in telling them, okay, on this section or on this so-called square foot of land, if you're planting cassava, this is the amount of inorganic NPK fertilizer you should use.
To educate on the amount to be used and also rely on inorganic and also animal husbandry to boost expansion and availability of organic manure. I think that is what we should take. Well, let's take that prayer, the two prayers. Is it the wish of the House?
The House subsequently adjourned plenary to Tuesday, 14th July 2026. Days after a fire outbreak on a high-tension electricity line at Ego Market raised fresh concerns over public safety, the Edo State government has moved from warnings to enforcement. The latest exercise saw illegal structures beneath the power corridor demolished, as government says protecting lives must take precedence over illegal arrangements. And what began as a frightening fire incident has now triggered decisive government action. Bulldozers rolled into Ego Market to remove illegal stalls, caravans and eave extensions built directly beneath the 132 kilovolt high-tension power line, an area authorities describe as a major safety risk. As the exercise progressed, traders rushed to salvage their belongings while onlookers watched the structures come down. The managing director of the Edo State Development and Building Control Agency said the demolition was carried out in compliance with government directives to clear the power line right away. According to him, affected traders had been given adequate notice to remove their structures, while officials ensured enough time was provided for them to evacuate their goods before the exercise commenced.
I will tell you, nobody's good was destroyed. The people know. It even made the job easier for us, because before we came, more than half of the job have been done. They have removed their structure themselves. But those who are very stubborn, waiting to see until the government caterpillar rolls in, those are the people who are falling victim to their stores being destroyed. But for goods, I can assure you, no single good was destroyed. We are carrying out a legitimate order, which we were here yesterday, even with His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Edo State, representing His Excellency Senator Mondio Pebolo, to tell them, and even we made it so humanly possible for them to remove their stuff as and when due. We even have to give, how will I put it now, we have to give audience to some persons to talk to us, and even give leverage for some who are not directly within the houses.
Although emotions ran high, with some traders expressing frustration over the loss of their business spaces, others acknowledged that the exercise was necessary. Some of the affected traders admitted receiving a 7-day evacuation notice, while others described the government's action as a difficult but important step towards preventing another potentially tragic incident.
I be widow, I be poor widow. Now only one small boy now I get. I don't go there every day. Take care of my mom. They go help me.
A week plus, we government don't tell the people of a market made a park a month. So they're not here today now. This morning, they bring Caterpillar come begin to scatter everywhere for a market. So if they're here, it will not be like this.
We are trading on that power line, of which is very bad, but we know that. But a lot of people now, their store are damaged, so we don't know what to do. So we just pray that government should come to our rescue.
The demolition marks another phase in Edo State's efforts to enforce building regulations and reduce avoidable disasters. Beyond clearing illegal structures, the government says the exercise is intended to safeguard lives, protect critical infrastructure, and reinforce the message that public safety must remain a shared responsibility between authorities and residents. You're watching Adbn News at 7. After the break, we bring you stories from the business world, the foreign scene, and sports. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Turning now to business, Nigeria Oil and Gas Energy Week 2026 has officially opened in Abuja, bringing together government officials, industry leaders, and investors to explore new opportunities for growth and investment in the energy sector. Our energy correspondent, Idarain Flannan, brings us the report.
The official opening of NOG Energy Week 2026 sets the stage for high-level conversation on the future of Nigeria's energy industry, with ministers, lawmakers, diplomats, investors, and energy executives converging in Abuja for the landmark 25th edition of the conference.
The special advisor to the president on energy called for regional collaboration and sustained investment, saying local content must drive real economic value. NNPC Limited GCEO also urged stronger collaboration between government and industry to achieve energy security and sustainable growth.
When we shorten approval timelines, we are not attacking anyone. When we are, that means we are defending national competitiveness. When we close revenue leakages, we're not settling scores. We are protecting Nigerian people.
Africa continues to attract disproportionate small share of global energy investment. This must change, and changing it requires fundamental shifts in our mindsets. We must move beyond transactional relationships towards strategic partnerships. We must move beyond isolated projects towards integrated value chain.
Chairman of IPPG and MD CEO of Aradel Holdings PLC advocated increased investment, stable policies, and strategic partnerships, while Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment welcomed the shift from policy discussions to investment-driven action.
It is against this background that IPPG is calling for urgent measures to be undertaken by all relevant stakeholders in addressing 4 key but not totally exhaustive areas. First, there must be a shift in government posture from collector to catalyst.
As industry players gather under the roof, it's important that yes, reliable energy supply is critical, is important. But what gives us the need sustainably, what is going to contribute to the prosperity of Nigerian men and women, is our ability to deliberately. When the GCO gets up here and speaks about value additions, it's about value chains, it's about productivity. My hope is that we can go and get beyond those niches and be deliberate and be intentional.
Minister of Gas for Petroleum Resources, GAS, identified infrastructure as key to expanding Nigeria's gas economy, while Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to an investor-friendly oil and gas sector.
We are aggressively driving natural gas to power our domestic industries, feed and fertilizer and petrochemical plants, revolutionize commercial transportation, and provide clean cooking solutions for millions of Nigerian families.
The oil and gas is not, something that will happen without deliberate investment.
The opening ceremony also featured signing of a gas sales agreement, an exhibitor store, and panel sessions, reinforcing Nigeria's drive to commercialize its gas resources and boost investors' confidence. From the nation's capital, Idurian Flanen, Adbn News.
To the foreign scene now, the United States has launched what it described as powerful strikes on Iran in response to attacks on 3 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. Central Command said the operation targeted more than 80 sites, including over 60 Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps bolts, as well as missile launch sites and command centers, saying the action was aimed at protecting commercial shipping in the strategic waterway. Iran condemned the strikes, describing them as a violation of the Memorandum of Understanding signed with the United States last month. Tehran warned it will take what it called decisive measures to protect its national interests, while state media reported that the strikes hit Qasim Island, Bandar Abbas and Sirik, leaving several people injured by shrapnel. Iran has not directly claimed responsibility for the tanker attacks that prompted the U.S. response. The latest escalation came after Washington revoked a waiver that had temporarily eased oil sanctions on Iran under the bilateral memorandum. The United States maintained that the attacks on commercial vessels were unacceptable, while Iran accused Washington of acting in bad faith and breaching the agreement reached between the two countries. Qatar and Saudi Arabia also condemned the attacks, saying tankers linked to both countries were struck while transiting the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Agency reported additional incidents involving commercial vessels in the area, highlighting growing concerns over maritime security in one of the world's busiest oil shipping routes. In sports, Switzerland booked their place in the quarterfinals of the 2026 FIFA World Cup after defeating Colombia 4-3 on penalties following a goalless draw in the final round of 16 match on Tuesday. The two sides could not be separated over 120 minutes before the contest was decided from the penalty spot. Both teams missed early spot kicks, but Switzerland goalkeeper Gregor Kobel produced a superb save to deny Cucho Hernandez before Ruben Vargas converted the winning penalty. Switzerland will now face defending champions Argentina in Kansas City on Saturday. Argentina looked to be heading for a shock elimination against Egypt before staging a remarkable late comeback. Christian Romero pulled a goal back with 11 minutes remaining before Lionel Messi, who had earlier missed a first-half penalty, equalized 5 minutes later. Enzo Fernandez then completed the dramatic turnaround with the winning goal in stoppage time. In tennis, Novak Djokovic will face defending champion Jannik Sinner in a blockbuster semi-final at Wimbledon after battling past Felix Auger-Aliassime in a marathon 5-set quarter-final on Tuesday. Djokovic suffered a calf injury in the opening set but played through the pain to secure a dramatic 7-6, 3-6, 6-3, 6-7, 7-6 victory over 5 hours and 15 minutes in sweltering conditions. The epic contest became the longest quarterfinal in Wimbledon history, with the 39-year-old showing remarkable resilience to book his place in the last four.
A story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on Adbn TV for business information, latest happening, business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on Adbn TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report, bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Welcome to FCT in Focus, your window to the vibrant heartbeat of Nigeria's capital. We dive deep into the core of the FCT, exploring how key policies and decisions shape lives across the city. From exclusive insights into the FCT administration to voices from the streets, we bring you stories that matter. Catch FCT in Focus every Saturday and Sunday at noon. Tune in for the latest stories directly from the nation's hearts.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces. Salute their gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division. Not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. #Unite against terror.
The official opening of MOG Energy Week 2026 sets the stage for high-level conversation on the future of Nigeria's energy industry, with ministers, lawmakers, diplomats, investors, and energy executives converging in Abuja for the landmark 25th edition of the conference.
The special advisor to the President on Energy called for regional collaboration and sustained investment, saying local content must drive real economic value. NNPC Limited GCEO also urged stronger collaboration between governments and industry to achieve energy security and sustainable growth.
When we shorten approval timelines, we are not attacking anyone. When we are, that means we are defending national competitiveness. When we close revenue leakages, we're not settling scores. We are protecting Nigerian people.
Africa continues to attract disproportionate small share of global energy investment. This must change, and changing it requires fundamental shifts in our mindsets. We must move beyond transactional relationships towards strategic partnerships. We must move beyond isolated projects towards integrated value chain.
Chairman of IPPG and MD CEO of Aradel Holdings plc, advocated increased investments, stable policies, and strategic partnerships, while Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment welcomed the shift from policy discussions to investment-driven action.
It is against this backdrop that IPPG is calling for urgent measures to be undertaken by all relevant stakeholders in addressing 4 key but not totally exhaustive areas. First, there must be a shift in government posture from collector to catalyst.
As industry players gather under the roof, it's important that, yes, reliable energy supply is critical, is important. But what gives us the need sustainably? What is going to contribute to the prosperity of Nigerian men and women is our ability to deliberately. When the GCO gets up here and speaks about value additions, it's about value chains, it's about productivity. My hope is that we can go and get beyond those speeches and be deliberate and be intentional.
Minister of Gas for Petroleum Resources, GAS, identified infrastructure as key to expanding Nigeria's gas economy, while Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to an investor-friendly oil and gas sector.
We are aggressively driving natural gas to power our domestic industries, feed and fertilizer and petrochemical plants, revolutionize commercial transportation, and provide clean cooking solutions for millions of Nigerian families.
Oil and gas is not, something that will happen without deliberate investments.
The opening ceremony also featured signing of a gas sales agreement, an exhibitor store, and panel sessions, reinforcing Nigeria's drive to commercialize its gas resources and boost investors' confidence. From the nation's capital, Idurian Flanen, Adbn News.
The Nigerian Oil and Gas NOG Energy Week 2026 took a deep dive into strategic panel discussions under the theme Advancing Energy Ambitions for Competitive and Resilient Economies. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board NCDMB team was seen sharing the local content journey from 5% to 61%, so her policies and strategies and collaboration skills in the Nigerian oil and gas industry. The Executive Secretary NCDMB Engineer Felix Omashola Obi, represented by Engineer Bayomi Bamidele, Director Capacity Building, gave a detailed presentation on the board's activities, projects, as a call for global and in-country participation in ushering local content into the next phase. He noted that the board, in partnership with other regulators, is set to commence modifications of joint industry capacity audit of in-country operations in the industry.
The next phase of local content growth must go beyond participation and compliance. It must focus on capacity expansion. That is very key because step after signing is to commence modification of our various certification portals in readiness for the joint industry capacity audit. Currently, in closing, it needs to be emphasized that the future of local content growth is closely tied to the future of project development in the industry. As we always say, there's this popular saying, no projects, no local content.
The event continues with discussion sessions buttressing on building global alliances, shaping the future of the energy industry through innovative development of skilled energy talents, scaling capacity and supply chains to meet evolving energy demands, nurturing local capacity to support production growth in offshore frontiers, and strengthening of domestic value creation through import substitution and partnership.
The mission of local content, there's nothing like indigenization. It's all around domiciliation of capacities. So that is one major achievement for us. Now, in establishing the right governance, we've also seen that Almost all the operating companies, service companies, have local content divisions or directorates with senior manning positions. That means that everybody has adopted local content as part of their business development model.
So the role of a regulator has now shifted to how do I enable these FIDs? And you're talking about a new workforce. There's no new workforce if there are no new projects. So we are now part and parcel of the FID process and how we can meet the operators halfway rather than how we can set bottlenecks as the case was previously. And
local content has gone beyond participation, having Nigerians in the room. The question is now about competence, being competitive, having the right capacity to deliver, and building collaborations. So you ask yourself, who have in the funnel already approved $10 billion worth of projects, FID taken in the last 3 years. And if you listen to some person, they say there's another 40 billion commitments already. So if you have this project explosion, if you have these projects in the funnel, you get to be interested in knowing, do we have the personnel, do we have the competence, do we have the competitiveness to do this?
Research and development. And so NCD, but we initiated it. The issue of African local content development is also one of our initiatives to ensure that we know the world is talking about renewable energy transition, and we say we are going to use gas as our own transition fuel. And
Day 1 of the Nigerian Content Seminar concludes with an official opening of the exhibition. Edith Barsa, Adbn News.
The center is still on the foundation level, which we are.
The inspection tour covered the ongoing construction of a counter-terrorism unit, 2.4 kilometer of rail road with a 120-meter span bridge linking Isurubium and Eket local government areas, the General Hospital in Model Primary School in Isurubium, as well as the dualization of the 11.6 kilometer Ikorimo Strap Bank Junction, Eket Road. The inspection carried a clear message from Governor Minor that visible progress alone is not enough, but projects must be completed on schedule. Although the governor acknowledged improvements on the General Hospital, Model Primary School, and the Ikore Menudo of Rio Road and Bridge, he stressed that performances will ultimately be judged by timely delivery.
When I'm in an area, I look for projects around that area to just inspect and see what's going on. And there's no difference in this case too. Because we have projects all over the state, so it's always necessary as you pass by, you stop by, check the project. We cannot rest on our oars. This project is scheduled to be delivered in December, and I would only say I'm impressed when we take delivery of the project. But from what we've seen so far, we have reasons to believe that, God willing, they will deliver.
Responding, the contractor assured the governor that the December completion date remains achievable, stating that while roadworks will accelerate after the rains, construction on the bridge will continue throughout the rainy season.
Full force on the small remaining part of the road, but the bridge will be worked all through the rainy season as rain will not affect any concrete work. So it is very realistic. We have promised His Excellency, and we'll make sure not to let His Excellency go.
Mary Onyemichi, Adbn News.
Taking a break from the ongoing local government tour, members of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly reconvened on Tuesday for legislative business.
Manage, operate, and maintain the water and...
Shortly after considering motions, Chairman of the House Committee on Rural Development and Public Utilities, Honorable Asukwan Nana, presented the committee's report on the Water Regulation Agency Bill.
Manage water supply in their area of operations. B. Manage, operate, and maintain the water and irrigation infrastructure within its area of operation. C. Provide water to its members.
Chairman of the House Committee on Judiciary, Justice and Public Petitions, Honorable Anefiok Atta, presented a report on the Office of the Public Defender Establishment Bill, which seeks to provide legal assistance to vulnerable citizens.
B. Ensure access to justice for indigent and vulnerable persons who are unable to afford legal representation. Protect and promote the constitutional rights and fundamental freedoms of persons requiring legal assistance.
Also, Honorable Robongitam presented reports on the harmonization of taxes and the regulation of the Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue Service to promote efficient administration.
The committee observed that the bill, when enacted, will eliminate multiple taxation and illegal collections, thereby preventing taxpayers from being charged similar taxes by different tiers of government. In the composition of Local Government Revenue Committee, the two non-governmental members of the Revenue Committee should possess relevant professional qualifications in finance or related fields.
Following deliberations by legislators at Committee of the Whole, the Speaker adopted the committee's recommendations and declared the bills read for the third time.
Accordingly, a bill for a law to provide for the establishment and regulation of water users association in Akwa Ibom State and for matters connected thereof be read the third time and passed into law. Bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the Office of the Public Defender and for other matters connected thereof be read the third time and passed into law. Accordingly, a bill for a law to establish the Akwa Ibom State Internal Internal Revenue Service for efficient administration and collection of internally generated revenue and for matters connected thereof is read the third time and is being passed into law.
The clerk was then directed to communicate the decision of the chambers to the Executive Governor of Akwa Ibom State. David Isong, Adbn News.
Hello, good morning, and indeed it is a pleasure to have you join us on our flagship program, Morning Express, live on Adbn television. But this morning we continue to follow the controversies surrounding the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, which is the center of attention across all media platforms, as this fictitious agency of government managed to sneak into the federal government's bureaucracy, securing an office at the Federal Secretariat and also happening to be appropriated 1.3 billion naira in the 2026 appropriation bill. All this and many more you can expect on the program. My name is Beto Bryan. However, I'm not alone. I'm in the company of my colleague, Cynthia Okosa. Cynthia, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Beto. Nice to have you this morning, I must confess.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Interestingly, you might interest your Nigerians to also know, in a twist, Gbajabiamila Miller, the chief of staff to the government, has also sued for defamation for the sum of 10 billion naira against the DG of the PFIPC, Prince Adeyemi. These and more are interesting headlines you'll find with us, so don't go nowhere. We'll be right back after this time out.
Well then, straight into the newspaper headlines making the rounds this morning with the reminder that the headlines are only read as published according to the editorial guidelines of each newspaper house and are not in any way a position of Adbn television as it concerns the issues in the news. That being said, in your reactions, take out time to do some due diligence before you react in the comment section. On our first newspaper this morning, you'd find headline more on the controversy surrounding the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, with a directive from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to the ICPC to probe the scandal and submit its reports within the next 30 days. Leading headlines on the Daily Trust newspaper you'd find: Tinubu seeks answer over phantom cancel. Tinubu seeks answers over phantom cancel. Above which you'd find: woman burns boyfriend's daughter to death. Xenophobia, lawmakers threaten sanctions against South Africa. National Assembly inserted road projects into our budget, says the Almajiri Commission. Now, still on the front page of the Daily Trust, on the rider, you'd find beneath the picture of prominence a few other stories. Beneath the picture of prominence, Senate to FG, stop rehabilitation of repentant Boko Haram members. Senate to federal government, stop rehabilitation of repentant Boko Haram members. Police detain Kurfi over allegations against Castina government. Kano Commissioner retires judge over bribery. Kano Commission retires judge over bribery. 4 senior police officers sacked, others demoted. Whilst the picture of prominence has the caption: cash and other items recovered from a gang of suspected kidnappers by the Violent Crime Response Unit of the FCT Police Command, displayed during a press briefing at the command headquarters in Abuja yesterday. Photo credits go to Abubakar Sadiq Isa. Those are the headline stories on the Daily Trust.
Moving away from the Daily Trust this morning, we're on to the first daily newspaper. And the news making the headline says, Tinubu orders ICPC to probe PFIPC scandal. It says, why we won't probe PFIPC controversy, says the Senate. And Gbajabiamila slams Adbn with 10 billion naira defamation suit. And just above the masthead, we have 2 senior terrorist commanders surrender to troops in Borno. NIMC enrolls over 1.36 million Nigerians as new Identity Act takes effect. Lagos federal government dismiss claims linking coastal highway to flooding. Tinubu ministers recite old national anthem at FEC meeting. And just above it, we have INEC launches online self-service voter registration, extend CVR exercise. And going down under the masthead, we have just by the side, Senate 6 end to Boko Haram reintegration program. Senate 6 end to Boko Haram reintegration program. Also, ICPC arrests El Rufai's doctor over abuse of medical visits. And on the rider, court voids Arkan 60 billion naira fine against Facebook Nigeria. That's it on the first daily this morning.
Away from the first daily, let's take a look at the front page of the Nation newspaper. Similarly, as seen on the 2 previous newspapers, Tinubu orders comprehensive probe of fake federal agency. ICPC gets 30 days to submit report. Gbajabiamila threatens 10 billion naira defamation suit against Adbn. Above that lead story, you'd find Senate likely to adopt retaliatory measures against South Africa. Presidential panel on state police begins work. More pressure on abductors to free Orire victims. NRS targets 50 trillion naira tax revenue by December. Row amongst lawyers over leaked memo suspending NBA election. Terrorist killed in Castina as ISWAP chiefs surrender. 21 APC governors back President Tinubu's re-election. Why Tinubu deserves support by Tom Polo is an inside story on the news page 6. The concluding rider on the front page of The Nation. UTM FLNG signs gas sale agreements with NNPCL, Seplat Energy JV. Those are the headlines of prominence on The Nation.
Moving away from The Nation newspaper this morning, We're over to the Punch, and the news-making headline, same as the one I read before, says, Tinubu orders 30-day ICPC probe. Senate rejects blame. I repeat, Tinubu orders 30-day ICPC probe. Senate rejects blame. Anti-graft agency to probe alleged forgery, impersonation in bank accounts. Police release Adeyemi's father. Continue search for embattled DG. Senate insists 1.3 billion naira budget line not inserted by lawmakers declines intervention without petition. And going over to the header, Dangote breaks ground on $17 billion Kenya refinery. Xenophobia, the catchphrase. Senate pushes sanctions against South Africa, others probe. El Rufai abused medical visit. Doctor arrested, says ICPC. Just underneath it, Warri PH refineries, ex-MDs face trials over alleged $989,630 million and 1.42 billion naira fraud. I repeat, Warri PH refinery ex-MDs face trials over alleged $989,630 million and 1.42 billion naira fraud. And going under to the masthead rather, just besides it, you're right, EFCC hands over 1,452 recovered items to Unity schools. I repeat, EFCC hands over 1,452 recovered items to Unity schools. 36.2 million Nigerians at risk of acute flood insecurity. 32.2 million Nigerians at risk of acute flood and insecurity. And on the rider, NBA insists on officers' election amid AGF role. Ogun records 161 deaths from 415 road crashes. State Police, Tinubu names Gbajabiamila AGF to Implementation Committee. Tinubu names Gbajabiamila AGF to Implementation Committee. That's it on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Now, away from the Punch newspaper, a new twist to the story involving the PFIPC Council is the position of the Senate spokesperson, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, who says that the 1.3 billion naira in the 2026 appropriation bill was not inserted by lawmakers, and that the National Assembly does not have the constitutional right to scrutinize every appointment made by the presidency or the SGF. Now, this is a prominent strapline on our next set of newspapers, starting with the Nigerian Tribune. On the Nigerian Tribune, you'd find the lead story as recurrently seen. Tinubu orders ICPC to probe fake PFIPC. Gives commission 30-day deadline. Report to be submitted to him. Agency to probe use of false documents. Opening of any bank account. Source, movement of funds. Gbajabiamila threatens Adeyemi with 10 billion naira defamation suit. Why we won't dabble into controversy, Senate explains. 11 trillion naira revenue targets may scare cargoes from Nigerian ports. Stakeholders warn NAS. NBA rejects alleged AGF directive, insisting elections will hold as scheduled. Tinubu's reforms working, support his re-election. Ekpemo Polo tells Nigerians. The sidebar is a health report, as a study suggests that recreational drugs, including cannabis, can cause stroke. On the rider, El Rufai's wife to Tinubu, my husband does not deserve this persecution. ICPC arrests his doctor over abuse of privilege, breach of medical visits. Senate wants stop to rehabilitation of terrorists. Directs conclusion of xenophobia probe within 2 weeks. And now, above the masthead are two more headlines on the Nigerian Tribune. Tinubu inaugurates Presidential Working Group on National Policing Bill. Gbajabiamila to head committee. Pressure mounts on abductors of Orire school children. Those are the headline stories as seen on the Nigerian Tribune.
Moving away from the Nigerian Tribune onto the Disclosure newspaper this morning, and the story making headlines on the Disclosure says, NAS inserted 8.4 billion naira road projects into our budget, Almajiri Education Commission confirms. Senate admits allocation of funds to PFIPC in 2026 budget appropriation. Tinubu orders ICPC to probe illegal PFIPC, prosecute indicted persons within 30 days. You have lost control of government, Atiku tells Tinubu. And just above the masthead, 2027, APC says substitution of candidates, not law, violation. NPO hails Tinubu's directive to probe big tech AI firms. Don't use old stock excuse to sustain high petrol prices, federal government warns marketer. Going under it, under the masthead, we have the catchphrase xenophobic attacks. Senate rules out takeover of South African firms in Nigeria. I repeat, Senate rules out takeover of South African firms in Nigeria. Nationalize MTN, DSTV, others now. Nigerians call out federal government. And on the rider, Nigeria's crude production hits 1.72 million barrel, highest in 5 years. Federal government deploys new ambassadors, introduces annual performance evaluation for envoys. Medical academics issues federal government 21-day strike ultimatum. And that's all on the Disclosure newspaper.
Away from the Disclosure newspaper, our next focus is the Daily Monitor. On the front page of the Daily Monitor, you'd find leading the headline, Tinubu orders ICPC to probe fake presidential intervention council. Directs MDAs to cooperate fully with ICPC by providing all relevant records, information required for the investigation. Senate won't interfere in alleged fake agency controversy, says the Senate spokesperson, Senator Yemi Adaramodu. Bajabia Miller threatens 10 billion naira suit against Ademi over alleged defamatory remarks. On the rider, stop rehabilitating repentant Boko Haram terrorists, Senate to federal government. Stop rehabilitating repentant Boko Haram terrorists, Senate urges federal government. And now on above the masthead, more headlines on the Daily Monitor. You'd find above the masthead on the Daily Monitor, ICPC arrests El Rufai's doctor over alleged abuse of court-approved medical visits. ICPC arrests El Rufai's doctor over alleged abuse of court-approved medical visits. Court adjourns trial of 6 alleged coup suspects until July 20. NCAA warns revenue cuts could affect aviation safety oversight. ACF crisis escalates as faction warns banks over 3.8 billion naira funds. Non-payment of end medical allowances, academics give FG 21-day strike ultimatum. Those are the headline stories on the Daily Monitor.
Moving away from the Daily Monitor newspaper, we're onto the Vanguard. And the story making the headlines has this catchphrase, insecurity, halt rehabs, try Boko Haram members, Senate tells federal government. I repeat, halt rehabs, try Boko Haram members, Senate tells federal government. Mons General Abubakar orders demand tech-driven security overhaul. Army detains 2 surrendering terrorist commanders in Borno. And just above the masthead, Tinubu orders ICPC to investigate PFIPC. Tinubu orders ICPC to investigate PFIPC. Oyo school kidnap, security forces trace abductors network, associates. And just above it, we have Nigeria's LNG exports hit 20.06 trillion naira as global trade reaches record high. And going under the masthead, we'll have just the side of it, by the right, we'll have alleged sexual harassment. Protesters ask Senate to suspend ambassadorial nominees' confirmation. Alleged sexual harassment. Protesters ask Senate to suspend ambassadorial nominees' confirmation. NPO hails Tinubu's big tech probe over content exploitation. Also, UTM FLNG signs gas sales agreement with NNPC Seplat for 200mm SAF/D for 15 years. And going under to the rider, over 18 million Nigerians exposed to flooding. NIHSA1s, I repeat, over 18 million Nigerians exposed to flooding. NIHSA1s says 2,000 acres of farmland, 8,794 educational facilities, 3,808 healthcare facilities will be submerged. And the last underneath it, xenophobia. Senate threatens diplomatic action against South Africa, orders fresh probe. I repeat, Senate threatens diplomatic action against South Africa, orders fresh probe. And that's it on the Vanguard this morning.
Away from the front page of the Vanguard, let's proceed to our next newspaper on review this morning, the Daily Times, where you'd find the lead story accompanied with a picture of prominence showing 744 repentant terrorists who are currently under the federal government's de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration program under Operation Safe Corridor. As the lead headline reads, "Stop rehabilitating insurgents, integrating them into military. Senate cautions federal government." Above the masthead, PFIPC, no petition before Senate. Spokesperson Yemi Adaramodu clarifies. Equities investors gain 1.87 trillion naira as market extends bullish run. And to the rider, Tinubu introduces annual evaluation for envoys, deploys 11 new ambassadors. Lastly, ADC demands full access to El-Rufai for family, lawyers, medical teams. Those are the headline stories on the Daily Times.
Moving away from the Daily Times newspaper, we're on to the Daily Sun newspaper. And the story making headline says, a catchphrase there says, Orire school children, credible intelligence aids tracking, arrest of abductors associates. I repeat, credible intelligence aids tracking, arrest of abductors associates. Akpabio laments continued captivity of pupils, says insecurity threatening investments and food security. And over the masthead, we'll have Atiku knocks federal government over padded 2026 Marjorie Commission budget. I repeat, Atiku knocks federal government over padded 2026 Marjorie Commission budget. And just above it, Tinubu gives ICPC 30 days to probe PFIPC and submit report. And going under the masthead of the newspaper, we have Ekpemukpolo rallies support for Tinubu, says reforms working. Also, UTME FLNG signs 15-year gas sales agreement with NNPC Seplat Energy JV for 200 MMSCF/D gas supply. Also, a catchphrase says xenophobic attacks. Senate seeks fresh diplomatic guarantees for Nigerians in South Africa. Also, NBA rejects Attorney General's alleged order to postpone 2026 elections. I repeat, NBA rejects Attorney General's alleged order to postpone 2026 elections. And these are the stories making headlines on the Daily Sun this morning.
Concluding our lineup of newspapers this morning, we have one more to go through, and that is the Guardian newspaper. On the front page, questions over the environmental impact assessment following the commencement of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project is reported to be bringing anxiety as planned expansions may affect 2,700 buildings, 10,800 homes. As the lead story reads with the catchphrase, Lagos-Calabar Highway, anxiety as planned expansion may affect 2,700 buildings, 10,800 homes. The picture of prominence has the caption, flooding in parts of Lagos metropolis after heavy downpour yesterday. Photo credits go to Ayodele Adeniro and Eniola Daniel. Beneath the masthead are three headlines. 2027, APC pleads with substituted aspirants to shelve litigation. 2027, APC pleads with substituted aspirants to shelve litigation. Oyo abductions, pressures mount as operatives close in on abductors. Xenophobia, despite outrage, Senate rejects reciprocal action against South Africa. And on to the rider. Nigeria's population growth may worsen sanitation crisis, says the African Development Bank, AFDB. Senate rejects Boko Haram rehabilitation, says justice must prevail. NBA cites autonomy, rejects AGF's intervention in officers' elections. Police confirm probing 30 political killings ahead of Osun Guber polls. PFIPC, Tinubu orders ICP probe as Senate distances itself from controversy. Those are the headline stories as prominently captured on The Guardian.
Away from The Guardian, that's all of it on our newspaper review this morning. And now you've heard the headlines. You have to stay with us so that we unravel, analyze all of these headlines so you get to know current updates as it is in the political world in Nigeria. So stay with us. When we're back from this short break, we will move over where our guests will be doing a proper analysis on all of these news making headlines on our today's newspaper. Stay with us, don't go nowhere.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. Adbn. A part of you.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Every day, decisions are made, policies are announced, challenges emerge, and lives are changed. But beyond the headlines, beyond the politics, beyond the noise, are the conversations that matter. On Softline, Nigeria's leading voices unpack the issues shaping our future, from governance to business, education, healthcare, technology, security, and the economy. Real conversations, expert insights, solutions that move the nation forward. Because understanding today's decisions shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Now airing 4 p.m. every weekday and Saturdays. Softline, where informed decisions begin.
The global business is never static. Watch the market report on Adbn TV for business information, latest happening business deals, government economic policies, stock, crude oil and commodity trading, financial upstick and downstick, and the world of organized private sector. The market report showing on Adbn TV 1 to 2 p.m. Monday to Friday. The market report, bringing you up to speed in the business world.
Welcome to FCT in Focus, your window to the vibrant heartbeat of Nigeria's capital. We dive deep into the core of the FCT, exploring how key policies and decisions shape lives across the city. From exclusive insights into the FCT administration to voices from the streets, we bring you stories that matter. Catch FCT in Focus every Saturday and Sunday at noon. Tune in for the latest stories directly from the nation's hearts.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Hello there and welcome back to Morning Express as we begin our discussions around prominent headlines in the news on our newspaper review segment this morning. Joining us in our studio is our first guest on the program, who is a socio-economic analyst and, of course, an ardent economist, as he joins us to lend his thoughts to the issues being discussed. We're now joined in the studio by Dr. Aliu Elias. Doctor, good morning to you and welcome to the studio.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Sir. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, without further ado, pleasantries being exchanged, we'll begin with our first story making the rounds this morning as the controversies surrounding the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council continues to draw attention to issues bordering on transparency and accountability. Now, and quite interestingly, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given a directive to the anti-graft agency, the ICPC, to probe the scandal with a month as the grace period and give his report back to him. What does this signal in terms of the presidency's position on the matter?
Right, so until I get to see the results, I still think it's the same thing as usual, because I can recall clearly that we've had several committees, to investigate a lot of things, and nothing actually comes out of it. The only thing is that this actually affected the president direct, because it simply means he's not in tune with what is happening in his under his domain, and that's quite sad. You also recall that Femi Gbadabiamila, the chief of staff, is also somehow being bring into these issues, and I could see there is a committee that was actually inaugurated, and he's part of the committee as well. So I think the ideal thing is that when you want to probe people or want to ask them, tell them to actually step aside, let us find out what actually happened, because this is a big scandal, and I'm challenging the federal government to bring about another level of check. Are you sure such thing is not still existing? That's what we need to look at, because if this person could find his way to appropriation, that simply means that it's not only him. We have also seen video evidence, pictorial evidence of how he has been going one place to the other and mingling with even the EFCC, other agencies. And if you look at it from my findings, about 8 agencies should be called for accounts on these issues. Remember, this person got an office in the federal secretariat. I'm sure this wouldn't have been possible without the secretary to the federal government office. So it's a big thing that we need to look at. Perhaps if this is happening at federal level, what is happening at subnational? It's a big concern for Nigeria.
Now, and this is casting a lot of aspersions as to how these appointments come by. And over the course of the last few days, we've seen vehement positions as issued by Bayo Onanuga defending the chief of staff, saying he had nothing to do with this scandal and is indeed fictitious. But you have said, pending the outcome of this probe, a lot will remain to be seen. Meanwhile, in the interim, a senior advocate of Nigeria and human rights lawyer, Femi Falana, has thrown the spotlight towards the National Assembly, saying, even if it's fictitious, how did a line appropriating 1.3 billion naira to this fictitious agency come to be? And it brings questions to mind as to questions of scrutinizing appropriations. This word padding has made its rounds in the National Assembly over the years. It's been dismissed in some quarters. But what does this speak to in terms of scrutiny to appropriation bills?
Right, I like to take it from Bayonom. I think he should be cautious of bringing about his statement. Yes, he's a spokesperson for president, but sometimes you need to be a bit clinical in what you have to contribute about and what you have to say, and you also need to be meticulous, because when you speak, you remember that's what people make do. What if the other way around actually happens, right? Because this is clear that someone is in cahoots with this gentleman that is actually doing this. Then we don't even need to rush to National Assembly. What about the national budget, and planning? What happens in that area? At what point do they find that they need to appropriate to this particular before it was forwarded? Because National Assembly take that and worked on it. Someone must have actually worked on it. Budget is just like as we are having 2027. Budget has started now. People have started, submitting, proposals. So someone must have proposed to national budget and planning. Is that not so?
Yes, please.
Then from there, it's now moved to the National Assembly. Now, coming to National Assembly, I'm sure that there is no appointment the federal government will make that National Assembly will not be one way or the other informed. So I also imagine what has happened to them, that they just see it and take it hook, line, and sinker. Perhaps there could be something beneficial that we don't get to understand for now. But for me, it does not come. It's not a one-man show. It's a teamwork. It's what have actually been planned, executed to this extent. However, at what point did they discover this man? I think it was, is it December?
Last year.
Last year. So if we discover such last year, why is it that it's coming to the limelight now? What has happened?
Why it's coming to the limelight now and again is because of the allegations that there was a fresh request. A note that Prince Adeyemi said that the Chief of Staff requested 48% of the kickback of the takeoff grant for the council, and he had made an initial payment of 400 million naira through a proxy to the Chief of Staff as alleged, but received a fresh request that he needs to make an additional payment of 200 million naira. That's why I think it's resurfacing.
Why did we get that by December? EFCC, ICPC
didn't swing into
anti-graft agency, even the Bayo Ononuga himself, they did not put an eye on it and say, yes, this person should be brought to book, sort of. Why is it that now that it's involving money? And that's why we need to be conscious of how we are doing things. It shows that the president, for me, I was thinking, is in charge. Because we saw a lot of things during President Muhammadu Buhari, but not this level of scandal. So I was thinking president is in charge, but it pretty shows that people that are handling the president actually much more are in charge. It may not even be Adbn, maybe other people within that actually in cahoot in doing this. Because this person, the way he's even talking, I saw one of the stations like yours actually called this person, and he was talking on, he couldn't show his pictorial or his video. He was talking on phone, and he was saying that let's get to the court. That simply means that this person has something within him that is banking upon, that is ready to actually bring it back. And it's so sad. I don't know, I got to know that they have released the father. I don't know why grown-up son will actually commit a crime and you keep on arresting.
That's a very serious issue, because the Police Act prevents such, and yet we find police officers.
It's uncalled for. It shows that we are unprofessional in our case. If a country that have a lot of anti-graft agency find it difficult to arrest such person, it's somehow you went ahead to be arresting people that are
relatives,
not relative, father. It's something else. It's something that shows how weak we are. Perhaps it shows how we are trying to show that we are working, right? Meanwhile, we're not doing the actual thing. That person should not be hiding.
Doctor, you just spoke about weakness.
Right.
So given the circumstance that developed from yesterday till today, talking about your arrest of Adeyemi's father as against arresting Adeyemi, the alleged committer of this offense.
Right.
Now, what do you make of the probe of the ICPC? Do you think a holistic and justified probe will be given at the end of the 30 days?
Right. So for me, I think we are looking at that with cautious optimism, because it depends on the factor that actually surround it. They could give him job, but sometimes you still get directive from people, or from the presidency, I should say. At this, so it depends on their disposition to whatever he actually brings about. And remember, it's not only this man. Remember, this man also have civil servant working with him. So who actually, approved that people should be working with him? This man traveled abroad to represent to an extent. So I think this case is much more of something that president have to look inward and look at what is actually happening to him. Perhaps a lot of things must have been going around. It was said at the early stage of this government that they have been collecting a lot of money to give people appointment. People actually doubted because there was no proof. I recall that President also passed vote of confidence on Adbn at a point in time. It was a public thing that even the National Assembly and the President himself passed vote of what? Confidence on him. So, but when we are seeing this kind of thing, that simply means something is actually fishy, and we need to actually unravel such, because we cannot be at this level, at this digital age, that someone cannot hide. Imagine if there is no social media, there is no anything. How can we come about the pictorial evidence that he has been meeting different people? We cannot see that, but thank God that the world is global. That's why I wonder why they could not tame him. They are looking for his relatives.
Now, moving on to another controversy surrounding the matter is also the call on the National Assembly to intervene. Yesterday, speaking to the press, the Senate spokesperson, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, said that the Senate cannot intervene in the matter except there is a formal petition written to it on the matter. He also adds that the 1.3 billion naira budget line in the 2026 appropriation bill towards the fictitious council was not inserted by lawmakers. He says that the Senate does not have the constitutional responsibility to carry out security checks on all government appointees, particularly those coming from the office of the SGF or the presidency. Well, it's quite interesting, and the other day my colleague and I were talking about how for civil servants you have to be scrutinized by the National Directorate of Employment. You submit your credentials, they have to be verified before your employment is even confirmed. You also have to receive your confirmation letter. But when it comes to appointments, it's more or less a political game where persons, even who are not technocrats, find themselves appointed into different positions. When it comes to the office of the SGF and presidency, where most of appointments come in, do you align with the explanation as given by the Senate spokesperson?
Not at all. Recall that when you are getting an appointment, the first thing is DSS. There's always DSS will not look at you, look at what you've been doing, and CCB. Body of CCB, remind me the full meaning of CCB. They have to check you, check your background.
Code of
Conduct Bureau. Thank you. Code of Conduct. So where are they? And I think they are silent at this point in time. We should call on them too, because they cannot give any federal government appointment that they will not go through DSS and whatever. Perhaps I think the Adaramodu is also bringing an escapism excuse, because how can you say it does not concern you? Recall that a lot of things that we've seen National Assembly intervening, they have to do a self-check, because it's an indictment of the entirety of their own institution as well. So you don't say that you are not. If I were them under the leadership of Akpabio, I think they should go ahead and have their own independent find it to say how did this get to this and who actually appropriate. Perhaps they've not also established if there's an oversight on this agency. These are what we need to know. And virtually every agency has an oversight on them. So who is actually responsible for that? Or are they saying that there's no one in National Assembly that are going to carry out an oversight function on the budgetary allocation that are given to this agency? And I think that is not possible.
And the Senate also made mention that there was no allocation made to this fictitious agency.
Before or for this budget?
For this, before this.
What about this budget? What about this budget? What about this ongoing, accepted budget that's 2026? They should go and do their check-ins very well.
Now, moving on to other issues in the news this morning. On our lineup, it's also concerning the Chief of Staff in itself, who was the 14th Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, between a period spanning from 2019 to 2023. His expertise will be coming into bear as he's set to head the National Working Group for the State Policing Bill. However, in the interim, he's also threatened to sue Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi to the tune of 10 billion naira over alleged defamations. Now, coming back to you, Dr. Prince Adeyemi has, like you alluded to earlier, welcomed the idea of having the courts prove him to be guilty. He says he is not a con man, as being dubbed by Mr. Bayo Onanuga. He says he received an appointment letter which did not come with any forged signatures. He said he received more or less a commendation from the EFCC boss, who posted him on his Instagram handle, verifying that he is indeed a hardworking member of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu renewed Hope agenda. So being sued for 10 billion naira is something he's laughing at. What would you make of it that beyond this, he will be represented by Mr. Femi Falana SAN? No. Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi says he's looking to hire Mr. Femi Falana to defend.
We are waiting to confirm that. But the first issue is that, for me, we don't need to come to the media and say you want to, sue for the sum of 10 billion. I don't think there's need for that. You should have just carried out such immediately, because this is defamation and it's not a small thing. Defamation of the Chief of Staff, I think it should be taken more serious if you actually are clean. So that's the thing. Then President giving out under appointment to Femi Gbajabiamila. You recall that this our Chief of Staff had a lot of turbulence, so to say. Remember that recent election, we also saw what happened between him and this film actor Desmond Elliott, where he said you have to clean his hand, that what happened at the state assembly, he's not involved, I told him to go public. And perhaps we have also seen vote of confidence passed on him. So this is the third thing that is actually happening. I think President giving him another appointment, it's somehow insensitive to what is actually happening, because I think president should have just lay low to an extent and see how things actually, perhaps wait for 30 days challenge that is given to ICPC before you actually hand him that.
So it seems to be a
because I think it's vote of confidence again.
It seems to be a habit of some Nigerians quickly rushing on the social media platform and saying they want to sue for defamation, they want to sue for defamation. Do you really think that Nigerians understand the rudiments of what it takes to actually sue someone for defamation? What's your take on that?
So I wouldn't go to generalizing it. I think Femi Gbajabiamila know what it means. He's a lawyer. So he knew what it actually means. I'm sure he's not a low-level person that you see doesn't know what it means.
Of course,
and that's why I wonder why
Speaker of the House of Representatives.
As a lawyer, I even wonder why he has to come out and say, I want to sue for 10 billion. Perhaps maybe it's not coming from him. He should have just go ahead and establish that. Perhaps Adeyemi is also saying that, yes, let's go to court. So let's go. And now I'm getting to hear that it's also so we want to hire, I'm sure Leonard Sick, Femi Falana will need to look at the merit of the case so we actually embarked on it.
Now, even speaking more on his involvement in the presidency, are called by some opposition figures that he should either voluntarily resign or go on a working leave to allow for this probe to carry out his intents and purpose, insinuating that still sitting in the office of the chief of staff might prevent the probe from defining its true intents and purpose. What do you make of those comments?
And that's why I said what the president just did by giving him appointment as head of police, what have you, is like a vote of confidence. And I also agree with the opposition. That's their responsibility. I recall, was there a fight that said, do you want me to say good about my opposition, that they need to look at every loophole and try to talk about it, speak about, and that's how we have a robust economy, where somebody will see things from the lens of opposition. And we also recall that APC are very good at that. I recall Lai Mohammed and what have you, they are very good at bringing such an issue, amplifying it, and making sure that it comes to the forefront of every nation. So it's not too much if they're asking for a step aside, a resignation, to actually look into it properly. Perhaps I even expect an independent, body to actually look at it. So, and that's where I'm challenging the opposition as well. They can constitute their own team as well to look at the merits and the demerit of it and actually come out with their own. Because you don't just talk. Sometimes as opposition, you need to also put things into perspective, work it out, come clean and bring your own suggestions in a good black and white. So Nigeria can know that, yes, we have robust alternative. If not, by the time ICPC come out with their investigation, we'd have to take it to line and sinker. Just like what happened to the issue of the INEC chairman, they also set up and we also have the result and everything dies down. So these are the things that we need to start looking at a separate body that will actually look at it.
Talking about putting things into perspective, a few days ago, former Vice President Atiku was also in the news talking about the federal government covering up making statements like they are not aware about the budget allocation to this fictitious institution. So what do you make of a situation whereby Femi Gbajabiamila, who seemed to be a centerpiece or an actor in this whole situation, what do you think, should the ICPC want to investigate and personally have a personal conversation with him? Do you think it would be one that will be free or independent of any form of bias?
Exactly. And that's why I'm opined that, yes, we should have an independent one that will not be, government. This is the government. But if you can have some Leonard Sick, some SAN, NB representative, that representative to be in the team. So we now say, yes, we're actually bringing in that. But if you give it to government agency, quote and unquote, you also expect that there's a level at which they want to actually manage the affairs. Perhaps it's their party, right? So they need to manage it as well. So I think I'm open and, yearning for an independent, panel to look into it.
Well, whilst the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not provide any sort of immunity from prosecution for the Chief of Staff, it is only a privilege enjoyed by the President and governors. There are some opposition figures who are of the opinion that Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila should go on a working leave to allow for the probe, as ordered by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to yield a better result. In the interim, let's take a listen to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as he gives a vote of confidence in his Chief of Staff.
I have absolute confidence on the integrity of my Chief of Staff. All the issues campaign of calumny and insinuations should stop. The buck stopped here. If I make mistake, I'm ready to own up to it.
Well, there you have it from the horse's mouth. So in the next 30 days, we'll keep our fingers crossed and wait for the ICPC to submit its report to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and hopefully we're made purview to some of its findings as the investigation into the Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council / Presidential Economic Advisory Council, as allegedly headed by the self-acclaimed DG, Prince Adeyemi Adeniyi, unfolds. Well, in the meantime, the President has also been speaking through the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, who, delivering the President's speech at the commissioning of the official annex for the body of benches, defended the exit of the FCTA from the Treasury single account, saying its removal is to remove bureaucratic bottlenecks and speed up infrastructure development within the FCT. You would note that in the last 2 weeks plus, ADBN has been bringing you exclusive coverage of some of the project commissionings to mark President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's third year in office. Coming back to you, it's still your field as an economist.
Right.
With the workings of the Treasury single accounts, I remember when the defense of the FCT budget was held at the National Assembly. That was when it was first brought into light that the FCTA would be more or less operating with the benefits of a state and is not going to be mandated to remit revenues to the TSA, allowing for funds to be available to speed up infrastructure development. Is this in keeping with best practice?
Right. So I'll take it from the intent of President Goodluck Jonathan, who actually came about this single treasury account and was much more upheld by the Buhari administration. So it's so, for me, I think there's a gap that federal government need to look at this very well, because it has some negative, negative optics compared to the positivity of it. Yes, you want them to function, that's the excuse. You want them to bring about projects, you want them to deliver projects. We've been seeing it, the wiki administration has been doing well, but for you saying that there should not be transparency, because that's the meaning. That's the meaning, that there should not be transparency, because the single treasury account will give room for transparency. It won't be direct that I wish to do this, I took the money, I do it, and there is no question. That is a danger. And I think if there's any organization that actually needs that, it shouldn't be only them. Others should come up and say, yes, our case is also much more of emergency. And there shouldn't be, Police Service Commission is also under, the federal government. Is there no emergency? Defense, is there no emergency in that area? So are you not saying that it's only the FCT administration that is actually doing that? There's other way you can actually do it. Perhaps it's a process. So if they need funds to be disbursed or they want to remit, they should do it as and when due, so that there will not be I think we should have strengthened our system than saying that you do not need to. So I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu need to review that, because that has actually lacked transparency ab initio.
But in the case of the FCT, there's also the argument I hear even from residents of the FCT, right, that the minister should be allowed to work with financial institutions since there is visible progress in the coming on board of new projects, social amenities and infrastructure for public use. When sentiments like this begin to make the rounds along the corridors of conversations, does it defend the actualities of the intent above the workings of a framework put in place to checkmate any abuse or lack of accountability?
So why do they have to actually go through budget process if you say they should be out of it? Because if you go through budget process, that simply means you have told the government XYZ that you're going to carry out. Resign also, and you have to work with the timeline. Perhaps you also have freedom of meeting the president. President can actually say, okay, this
can sign off on
off. So I think it's better that president say, okay, always bring your approval to me, so that I'll just approve. Not that you say that you shouldn't go through. My problem here is that it will give room for corruption and absolute, power. Lead towards.
So do you not think the reason
corruption.
why he's asking that he shouldn't go through the finances is because it might delay the working process? He usually likes working with time frame, and as a project minister, it's in his...
So between him and Umahi, who is much more of project?
The Minister
of Work. You tell us.
The Minister of Work. So what? We have more emergency in flood, in a lot of emergency issues. So who actually do that? Who construct road more? So we have to look at it with balancing it. Right. We lived in the FCT and we can attest to his disposition to good work. Right. But for you to give absolute power, for you to say don't go through a transparency process, I think that's where the aberration actually lies.
Now, as we look to conclude in less than a minute or two, away from this discussion, we'll be back into the election season, and it's still the status of the FCT, which has been a subject of debate in the interpretation of the Constitution, either on the majority of votes needed to win in 2/3 of states and the FCT, or whereas where we're having discussions on the FCT being allotted a state-like statute. What's the best practice going forward? Should the FCT be recognized much like a state in Nigeria? Right.
If you ask me, I think it may not be outright, but there's some things I think we need to look at in terms of representation. Because if you see FCT, we only have the senator, right? And we don't have other things and he's only one senator, as it were, and you see others have like 3, So I think they should review that so that there could be much more attention to amenities and things that need attention. So I think if we can actually give them much more autonomy, allow a lot of things, but removing it from status of FCT and give it the states, I think it should be reduced to some extent. Again, you may not even use a governor, you may use a mayor. There's a lot of things that we can actually do, but all I want is that I want FCT to have more representation. That will bring much more development closer to people.
Well, this is where we draw the curtains to a close on this discussion. We want to thank you, Dr. Aliu Elias, for being a part of it.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for honoring us.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.
Well, whilst President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has defended the exit of the Federal Capital Territory Administration from the Treasury single accounts, interpretations of the Constitution 1999 as amended as regards Section 299 on the status of the FCT has been long debated, dividing opinions. Whilst the Constitution recognizing FCT as probably the 37th state of Nigeria, interpretations by the judiciary have somewhat differed, as this continues to remain an advocacy for effective representation. And much like Dr. Ali was earlier said, if other states are given the benefits of having 3 senators represent senatorial districts in the states, why should it be different in the FCT, which has only 1 senator representing it? It's a food for thought this morning. We'll go on a short break, and when we return, our next conversation centers on project management. Stay with us.
Numerous cases of people falling asleep have been reported across the African continent. No one can explain this phenomenon.
He's getting close. With 24/7 FIFA World Cup coverage, sleep can wait. Everything can wait. Get DSTV plus 1 month subscription now for only 15,000 naira.
There are stories that make the heart race. Where love is born in the most dangerous moments.
Ali was actually Poyraz Ali.
Each secret can destroy everything. Love. Passion. Power. Lies.
It's not the first time you let me down. It was my mistake for trusting an idiot like you.
The dramas that make you feel everything. Catch the sizzling episodes of Sins and Roses at 4 p.m., Domenica Monteiro at 5 p.m., Be My Sunshine at 6 p.m., and Avenida Brazil at 7 p.m. Central African Time. Only on Novelas Plus.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces, salute their gallantry, stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned to Morning Express. Our next conversation is one that centers on the Project Management Talent Gap Report. And joining us on the program this morning is our next guest, who will be having the luxury of joining us from the comfort of his home. We'll be talking to Mr. George Asamani of the Project Management Institute in Sub-Saharan Africa. Mr. George, good morning to you, and thanks for choosing to join us on the program. Hello, Mr. George, can you hear me? Now, whilst Mr. George looks to sort out his connection, permit me to also lay a preamble into the discussion, because currently in Sub-Saharan Africa's construction sector, it's entering one of its most consequential periods. And at the center of this transformation is the Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, the PIDA project, a continent-wide initiative designed to close critical infrastructure gaps by 2040. Though more than 400 priority projects spanning energy, the transport sector, ICT, and transboundary water systems, with over $360 billion committed, the PIDA represents not just a pipeline of projects, but a blueprint to unlock regional integration, industrialization, and long-term economic growth across Africa. So let's look to re-establish connection with Mr. George Asamani, the Managing Director, Project Management Institute, Sub-Saharan Africa, on the importance of this project management in Africa's infrastructure development. Hello, Mr. George, can you hear me? Seems as though our connection with Mr. George is still buffering. Nonetheless, Mr. George is not new to the program. He has been a regular for some time now. And following our series of discussions on the importance of project management in sub-Saharan Africa to improve infrastructural development with targeted sectors like the ICT, it's important to reiterate that there is currently a talent gap in Africa. But under the Project Management Institute, there have been a demographic of African youths who have been identified as the core force to drive project management in Africa. And following the talent gap report, we're hoping that Mr. George can now join us. Yes, I can see his image grid the screen. I'm hoping that our audio connection is more stable now and we can get his response. Mr. George, if you can hear me, do well to say something.
I can hear you. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Apologies for the connection issue.
It's all right. We also do owe you an apology in return as well, following the disruption in our earlier discussions. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm in the company of my colleague as well, Cynthia.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Morning Express. Good to have you.
Well, that being said, let's get straight into the discussion as lined up this morning. My first question, like I laid out in my background to the discussion, is the construction talent gap reports, which show that sub-Saharan Africa could face 57% shortage of construction project professionals by 2030. The question is a direct one. How do you reconcile the rapid growth in demand in emerging economies?
Sure, thanks for the question. So essentially, it's because emerging economies are the ones that are still growing. And so because they're still growing, there's more of a need, or there's still a need for construction activity. But the issue is we don't actually have enough people to do the construction. And just to give some context on the report that you mentioned. So obviously, we all know there's economic growth happening all over the world, but there's more growth in some countries than others. And that economic growth is actually driven by projects. And in this case, we're talking about construction projects. In Africa, some of the key construction projects and programs are like PIDA, right? The program for infrastructure development in Africa. In Nigeria, we have the Nigeria Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. In Ghana, we have the Big Push. These are just a few examples to illustrate the construction projects driving economic growth across the continent. But because of this need for projects, we need more construction project managers. And because of this growth, especially over the next 10 years, actually the need is outpacing the supply. So that's what the report you mentioned is about. So that's the construction project management talent gap. And it's a gap because we still need to catch up. The supply needs to catch up with the demand. And it's not just an Africa issue; it's globally, right? Globally, there's a talent gap. But I'm here to talk about SSA. So in terms of your question and the 57% shortage, it comes about because of this need for talent as we are growing, and emerging economies are the ones who are feeling it most because they are the ones that are still growing. Essentially, that's the context.
The region is projected to need hundreds of thousands of new project professionals by year 2035. What implications does this have on the country's educational system and workforce development strategy and the infrastructure projects? Sorry, let me take that again. Like I said, the region is projected to be in need of over thousands of project managers by year 2035. So my question is, what is the implication is this going to have on the workforce of our country, and what is the developmental strategy that's going to be put in place for that?
That's right. So that's exactly what I was talking about in terms of economic growth. We'll need more than 400,000 by 2035, we in Sub-Saharan Africa. But right now, actually, we don't have that amount. We're around about 260,000. So the question is, how do we increase the number of people educated and trained with the right skills, and how do we do that quick enough, right, to meet the need and within that time? In general, the implications you're talking about, from our point of view, my point of view, we basically need a strategic shift in our education systems. Our education systems need to shift from a slow, theory-heavy training to a fast, skills-based learning. And what does that mean? It means that actually, we think that there's some key areas to look at. Some of it is being looked at already, but we actually need to really look at it in depth and make more of an impact. Some of these areas are, for example, practical exposure. Yes, some courses have practicals in them, but really we need to think about how do we redesign how we teach so that practicality stands out more. Today, when you look at systems around the world, including obviously here in SSA, we're still really focused on theory over practice, and it's starting to hurt us. So how do we get graduates to leave institutions with real project experience, real exposure to risk and timelines and real stakeholder dynamics, real project understanding, not just the theory? Well, I guess you get the point. We need to shift to more of a feeling the practicality, because we're seeing students or candidates finish their academic training, but they're just, it's mostly academic, and they're not prepared enough for the real world, and it's not their fault. In addition to looking at the practicality aspect, we need to look at digital capability. This is also critical. It's not optional, really. It's foundational. It goes without saying these days, when you look around, there's AI, there's all this technology and in infrastructure, mining, energy, construction. It's really powered by digital. Whether it's analytics, I talked about AI, digital collaboration tools, BIM, which is building information modeling. So we cannot be digitally uneducated. It's a huge risk. And you can see this in our research, especially the importance of AI and digital skills, and specifically for improving decision-making and efficiency, because all this leads to whether the project will be successful and also whether the project will be economically viable or successful or not. And really, if we don't, and when I say we, I mean in Africa, if we don't embed these capabilities now, we risk actually managing future infrastructure, not only with the shortage of the talent gap, but also then with outdated skills, if we're not there already, right? So really, we need to look into this. And then just the final point on the implications and what I think needs to be done. I think industry, when I say industry, I mean companies within the construction sector really need to take a more active role, more than ever before. I'm in touch with organizations that, they try to put on internships, apprenticeships, mentorships, but we need to do more of that, because that ties into the practicality. And what it does is it helps students or candidates have hope, actually, to see the connection between, okay, what am I studying now? How does it connect to when I finish? Maybe I can get an internship. Maybe I can become a manager. Maybe I can become a leader. Maybe I can lead industry. But without that, it's almost a dead end for a lot of students. We know this. We're all feeling we're all hearing the pain of young people or people in the sort of like unemployed or underemployed space. So this is the third thing. How do we get industry to actually get more involved? Because industry knows how to solve problems. That's why industry exists, because they found ways to solve problems, and they're making money off of that, which is a good thing. So this is another problem that we need to solve. So So ultimately, it's not just an education issue. It's also a competitiveness issue, right? So that's when you look at companies or countries rather like China. I'll give you a very short example. I saw this when I led a delegation of African leaders to China last year. We saw how professional certifications are not optional. They're embedded into how roles are defined and how capabilities are assessed. And secondly, there's a clear alignment between national development priorities and industry needs and the skills needed for this to happen. That connection, that level of intentional connection nationally and academically really helps to drive growth. So these are some of the implications that exist.
Mr. George, I must allude to the fact that you brilliantly laid down the interconnectivity between a school curriculum, career path projections, and the role of the industry in being able to shop for this gap. And this brings me to my next question, because traditionally, we've seen that infrastructure has heavily relied on engineering expertise. My question is, how has the role of project management evolved to become a strategic capability?
That's a great question. Absolutely, engineering and engineers are obviously critical to any country's growth and development. Engineers are problem solvers. One area that still needs to be strengthened is that of project management in engineering and construction projects. And that's not a surprise, because most engineering degrees, you'll see that actually they don't have in-depth, comprehensive project management courses. They'll have a unit on project management, but the level of depth is not what you can see when you look at global project management standards. So yes, your question, project management skills and project managers themselves are definitely being elevated into a more senior space. Rather, they're evolving to become strategic enablers and strategic contributors. And there are really three fundamental shifts that's elevated project managers from a supporting function to this strategic capability that we're talking about. So the first is moving upstream, right? Project managers and project management has moved upstream from execution, just simply executing tasks, to actually being involved in earlier stages. The project managers and project management is shaping investment decisions because it guides the reality of execution. It's also aligning projects to national priorities, and it's also ensuring that economic viability is there, counts, and is used as wisely as possible. So that's the first aspect of it, moving upstream, being more strategic as a project contributors. Secondly, it's driving outcomes and not just delivery. Typically, project management and project managers, yes, they're there for delivery, but actually it's not just delivery. It's like, what are you delivering for? You're delivering for outcomes that you want to see. Infrastructure today is a lot more complex. It involves blended financing, there's regulatory issues, there's multiple stakeholders. And so we've moved from just measuring success or measuring what we've delivered and not just looking at time and budget as has happened historically. And thirdly, project management has become really fundamentally people-driven. Projects are, they essentially sit at the intersection of governments, communities, investors, and contractors. Projects bring all this together. So who is there to make sure that there's the synergies are maximized, that there's a consistent narrative? The project manager really is not just a coordinator, they're a strategic integrator, they're a negotiator, they are aligning interests, they're managing risks, and they're making sure that what is built actually serves all stakeholders and also impacts society. So this evolution that we're talking about, in other words, what I just said, moving upstream, the focusing on the outcomes and being more people-driven is actually what we as an organization or PMI, this is part of our global vision for the profession. And if you look up PMI more, M-O-R-E, this is what we are advocating for and supporting project professionals all around the world with. We challenge the professionals to move from just simply managing a task to actually truly owning an outcome. And we're encouraging people to, the professionals to expand their perspective, to relentlessly reassess their work and their assumptions. And of course, managing stakeholders is a critical part of it as well.
Well then, sir, it's good to know that the project management is actually upstreaming. Now, my question is, when major infrastructure projects fail or stall, the economic impact is actually really significant. Now, what do you make, from your research, I want to know how much of this risk can be traced back to the gaps in project management capability?
Yeah, project management is a huge part of that that risk and risk management. When you look at the evidence, there's a significant portion of infrastructure project failures that can be trace back to gaps in project management capability. Whereas, and when you look back, you see that, okay, this wasn't done, or this was done not so well. For example, whether it's on the planning side or the coordination or risk management, when you look back at failures, you can actually see where some of this stuff wasn't done well. And you'd be surprised the extent to which project management is responsible for project success. And the easiest way to describe it is to talk about what we call the talent triangle. This is essentially the skills framework that we use. So it's the three types of skills that project managers have. And we call it a talent triangle because, of course, a triangle has three sides. On one side is technical skills. Are the technical skills there? Are they good enough? So technical skills like, scheduling or planning or resource management. Second side of the triangle is what we call the power skills. Some people call this soft skills. So these are the skills, the human skills that cannot be replicated by AI or technology. So communication, leadership, empathy, those are also absolutely critical to project success. And then third side of the talent triangle is business acumen. So this is, why am I doing this? What are the legal and regulatory compliance? What's the vision that we have for us? Because there's no point being an excellent technical person, but you don't understand the context you're operating in. So if any of the skills within these three areas fail, that's where we have the issues that you just brought up. And you can trace that back in every project failure, you can trace back to an element of project management that falls within one or more of these types of skills, if that answers the question. And you talked about economic impact. Absolutely, the economic impact is there. I just want to say, so the economic impact is actually not just on the project itself, but actually because projects help to drive economies forward, then the economic impact has a joined up impact on the economy. So think about it. When a project in Ghana is delayed, it affects trade. If energy infrastructure in South Africa is postponed, it impacts productivity. If projects in Nigeria or Kenya fail, it directly impacts livelihood. So it's not just about the economic impact on the project itself. It's, what is it connected to? So there's a structural challenge and a structural impact that we really, really need to remember and take into account when we're building the skills that we need to drive our future.
Mr. George, whilst we were talking, I was doing the maths following the report. Currently, the global workforce of project managers stands at 40 million. And by the projections, we're hoping to scale up to 70 million professionals by the year 2035, which means on the average daily, we need to recruit 435 project managers every single day for the next 3 decades. This brings me to my next question. It's been well established that to meet Africa's industrialization drive, we need project managers. But let's help our viewers understand in intricacy what these project managers actually do in ensuring accountability in the delivery of these projects.
Yeah, it comes down to the skill set that I talked about earlier in terms of the talent triangle. And remember that the three sides. There's the technical skills, there's the people skills or the human skills, and then the third side, which is the business acumen. What they do is embedded in all of that. In terms of, do we have those skills? Well, first of all, we have the ambition. The ambition is there here in Africa. We have the ideas, we have the dreams, the plans, even the funding is there. But the question is, where is the execution? And so this is where we're talking about the project management talent triangle and the skill set. So in terms of what they do, as I said, the technical side, whether it's planning, coordination, in-depth analysis, on the human side, whether stakeholder management, negotiation, communication, that's absolutely critical. And then on the business acumen side is actually making sure that as we work, the reason we're doing this project is kept in mind. So for instance, if we're supposed to build some new motorway from, I don't know, from Lagos to Abuja, how do we make sure that we know why we're doing it, the context remains in sight, and we're able to successfully deliver that, so that those who need to benefit, the general public in this instance, they will actually also benefit. So that's what project managers do and are doing.
They want to close critical skills gaps for project managers. Now, if Africa is to meet its infrastructure ambitions, what practical steps should governments, companies, and educational institutions take now to develop the next generation of project managers?
Okay, so a few steps. I think the first is around professionalizing project delivery. So this is about how do we, as if I focus on governments first, actually. So how do governments strengthen project management delivery units? You'll find that actually governments around Africa, around the world, but in Africa, we have what we call PDU, or rather project delivery units, or project management delivery units. And this really, really needs to be looked at, because the better a delivery unit is, the more likely it is for a country to execute on its national plan. So you find that countries like South Africa, Nigeria, they've made progress in specific areas, and these really need now to go to the next level. And this is part of the work that we're doing. We're supporting governments to help improve their delivery units and take their execution capability to the next level. So starting with governments and their delivery units, professionalizing those, and expanding that across countries. Second of all, if we look at the private sector, I think the private sector could relook its approach to talent development. Earlier I talked about industry getting involved and trying to do a little bit more. The reason I say that is because, again, I work closely with companies who will run internships, but it's difficult, right? The purpose of those internships is to have a pathway for candidates to move from learning or academic training into the job space. But typically companies will only run 1 or 2 or low numbers, 10 interns in a year. The scale that we need is way more than that. We need hundreds of interns or apprenticeships. So there's got to be something around the private sector getting more involved in the talent development space. It needs to be done systematically, and it needs to be done deliberately. And then the third is around the education system. Again, we talked about this earlier. What do we need to change? I talked about the shift. How do we get more practical? How do we get more digital? And how do we connect more to industry? So I think those are some of the things that we need to look at.
Let's talk about policy levers as well. What are some of the policy levers that you would recommend for African governments?
So it's funny. I was having a conversation with the former Minister of Energy and Education a few weeks ago, and it was really interesting and impressive to know that actually, from a government point of view, there are systems in place. We just need to use them. And what I mean by that is policy that says, okay, we need to make sure that for our industry or the construction industry to move forward, policy must be in place that XYZ standard must be there, ABC skill set should be in place. That policy then gets translated to regulation, and then that regulation gets applied on the ground. So the policy is there, and if it's not there, we should put it in place. And this is some of the work that we do, for example, across Africa. A great example is what we're doing with SACP CMP, which is one of the leading regulators in Africa when it comes to construction project management. And so I guess what I'm saying is countries should have policy in place. Some countries do. For those that don't, let's make sure that policy is there. But once the policy is there, let's follow it all the way through the stages, right? From policy to regulation to action to actually implementing the project. So that's the first one. The project delivery actually must be institutionalized. I think second, once the policy is in place, once that framework is in place to make sure that the skill set can be developed and applied, then the second is, okay, where's the talent to match that skill set? So how does government build a national pipeline of project talent? I know that one of the biggest companies in Africa, after delivering one of the biggest projects on the continent, they looked at, how do we have a project pipeline? So for these people who delivered this incredible project, right now they don't have a next project to go to, but somebody else might need them. Where do they go to be in the pipeline for that next critical project that will be needed anywhere in Africa? So how do we formalize, and how does government have a national pipeline of project talent so that this talent who we know can execute whenever a project comes up or as projects are coming up, they're just deployed almost in military fashion, knowing that the success is going to come because this pipeline has been verified and we know that it works. And then third is linking funding to performance. Right now, you'd be surprised. There's funding available for good projects in Africa. The challenge is what we call project preparation. And what that means is that though the funding is available, the funding is not just going to be released anyhow. The funding is released when those requesting the funding can demonstrate that actually this project will deliver the ROI that the funding is looking for. And right now, that project preparation phase, I'm afraid, is a little bit weak in certain parts of the continent. So this is some of the work that we need to look at. And this is part of the reason why we need to elevate project management capability, because once somebody is looking for funding and they understand execution and they understand project management, they can now connect the dots in terms of the funding requirement, and how to demonstrate that actually the reality is going to occur. The execution is going to be possible because of the key project management skills that are already in place. So the levers are the institutional project management across government. That's the first thing I mentioned. Second is building a national pipeline of project talent. And then third is just connecting the funding to performance and delivery.
All right, Mr. George Asamani, it's been nice talking to you. But before we say our goodbyes, permit me, if you would indulge me, because I recall we spoke about this time last year, August last year, whilst you were in Kigali, Rwanda, and we're talking about some of the regional strategies that Sub-Saharan Africa would need to deploy to achieve this transformational growth we so envision. And this brings me to our concluding question, which is Africa's $360 billion infrastructure question: who will deliver? So far, so good. Are you impressed with the pace of work and regional strategies Sub-Saharan Africa is deploying as we look to close the talent gap?
I think there's more work to be done. I think what we are happy about is that, there's a coalition of the willing, if I could put it that way. We're working with governments who are definitely focused on improving capability and getting work done. We see that the general public is upskilling ourselves, which is fantastic. That's the coalition of the willing. We've got a mountain in front of us, but I believe we're taking the steps to climb that mountain. So I think that's something to be happy about. And there's we're going in the right direction. Let me put it that way.
Thank you very much once again. I hope it doesn't take another 365 days before we have you back on the program. But this morning we'll be speaking to the Managing Director, Project Management Institute, Sub-Saharan Africa, the ever-eloquent and brilliant George Asamani. We're wishing you the best of the rest of your day.
Enjoy
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you. You too. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
Well, Cynthia, quite a gap to close.
Yes.
The calculations I did earlier, we need to recruit 435 project manager professionals every single day for the next 3 decades if we're supposed to increase the global workforce, which is currently at 40 million professionals in that field, to 70. I'm just hoping that we have the amount of industries, companies, and government support to close the unemployment gap by investing critically in project management.
Very importantly, government support. You know, in Africa, the level at which our youth population is growing is amazing. And it's in that light, I would really want to crave the indulgence of the federal government to do its bit by supporting the youth to make sure these skills gaps are closed, so that we do not have complaints from here and there from employers saying that the jobs are there, but the skills are not there. So please, let's do the needful.
All right, then, we'll go on a quick commercial break. And when we return, we'll have our next guest in the studio as we look to wrap things up based on our current affairs-driven discussions. Stay with us.
Every second, a story breaks.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has formally presented the 2026 appropriation bill to the National Assembly.
The nation reacts. The world shifts. History moves in real time. Before the noise, before the opinions. One screen keeps you connected. From the headlines shaking the nation to the stories everyone talks about tomorrow. Stream anytime, anywhere. When the story matters, you know where to turn. ADBN. A part of you.
Nigeria is home to over 242 million people. More than half are young. A generation with the numbers to shape elections. Yet, millions stayed away from the polls.
So you think say your votes no carry power?
No, we don't do anything now.
As we speak, I can't say.
I always have my reservation about that.
So, what is keeping young Nigerians away? Is it distrust or a lack of awareness? Or the belief that their votes cannot translate into real change? From the streets to social media, to conversations with youth advocates and political leaders. This special feature explores the questions shaping the future of youth participation in Nigeria's democracy. Because the numbers are undeniable, but numbers alone don't decide elections. Participation does.
It doesn't take a pandemic or an epidemic to know that clean hands save lives. Hand washing is essential anytime, anywhere to protect your health. So keep washing your hands, not just when they're dirty, but even on the go. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep your hands clean.
Welcome to the Niger Delta, a region of incredible beauty and stark contrast. From its breathtaking landscapes to its rich cultural heritage, this is a place where history and modernity collide. But beneath this serene surface lies a story of struggle and resilience. The Niger Delta is the lifeblood of Nigeria's economy, home to vast oil reserves that fuel the nation, yet it is a land where the people fight for their share of the wealth. Join us on the program Niger Delta Today as we explore the heart of the Niger Delta, discover the vibrant cultures, the struggles for environmental justice, and the stories of the people who call this place home. This is the Niger Delta, a land of contrast, a story of resilience, a journey of hope. Don't miss our exclusive series, Niger Delta Today, every day at 12 noon, only on Adbn TV. Witness the untold stories, experience the journey, be part of the change.
Welcome back on the program Morning Express on ADBN Television. We're still on it, and we have a very brilliant guest with us in the studios to continue from where we stopped, talking about the breakdown of uprising on the political field. And his name is Kennedy S. Nwokocha, a public analyst, a public affairs analyst, actually. Good to see you, sir. You're welcome to the studios this morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure.
Mr. Ken, define the weather to be here with us. We appreciate you.
Yes, yeah, thank you so much. I just have to be here because
come rain, come shine.
I place so much value to this station.
Oh, good to know.
Well, that being said, we'll turn our attention back to some of the prominent news stories that we didn't cover before the break, and coming back to the National Assembly following legislative interventions. The spate of recruitments for repentant terrorists, particularly under the Operation Safe Corridor, has divided opinions across the political scenes in Nigeria, with many criticizing the move by the federal government to de-radicalize, reintegrate, and also train the so-called repentant terrorists. The last batch of them, numbering over 744, who are all dubbed to be repentant. I'll come back to you this morning, Mr. Kennedy. It's on the call, now even by the National Assembly through the upper chambers, the Senate, who are asking the federal government to stop the reintegration program. What do you make of their call?
Some of the things that happen in this country, look like comedy. Most times it's actually very difficult to put them in perspective. There's a friend of mine, I think it's Zachary. He has consistently said that the only reconciliation that the terrorists have, the only reconciliation is to fast forward with their maker. There is nothing like rehabilitation for terrorists, people who have devoted their life in killing other Nigerians, in not just frustrating other Nigerians, but killing them. And these people that they are killing are not the reason why they suffer whatever problem that they suffer. So for us to come to a place in our nation where we have people who have devoted their life to destroying lives and property in this country, to now say that we are going to use federal government money to rehabilitate them. The most annoying part of it is not even that they are being rehabilitated. The most annoying part of it is that the people that they displaced are still living in IDPs. Their lives are still shattered. There is no closure for those of them who have lost their loved ones. As we speak, some of them are still scattered in several places in this country, even here in Abuja, in so many places. And federal government is spending so much in rehabilitating the same people who are responsible for destroying the lives and properties of Nigeria. And you now ask, why has insecurity not abated? Why are these people, why have they not stopped? How come that the more you try to rehabilitate them, the more you have, large, size of insecurity, and it's like an incentive. Like the more they kill people, the more they are compensated. So it's an unfortunate situation. So if some people now are now coming to their senses to now say this thing should be stopped, it's something that should have been done yesterday. But thank God that call is coming now. I'm hoping that federal government is going to follow through to it. I'm hoping that the Senate that has become and it's supposed to be a kind of another arm of the government. It's supposed to be an independent arm of government. But we have seen, especially this Senate, is acting as though they are part and parcel of the executive. I hope that this call that they are making this time, they are going to follow through to it, because it's an unfortunate situation. It's something that should not be had. It is repugnant to natural justice, equity, and good conscience. And it is actually not palatable for those people who are suffering insecurity in this country, especially those who are still living in IDPs.
Now, this call was off the back of one of the motions as moved by Senator Abdulaziz Musa Yaradua following the demise of a retired Major General Abubakar Rabi, who died while in abduction of the terrorists, but his wife was, however, rescued some days later. He says we cannot have high-ranking officials of our military being decimated and killed with attacks on military cantonments even in the northeast. This call is coming from one of them, and it's not just because of civilian casualties. Men of our military who have paid the ultimate price in securing our territorial integrity are now being more targeted by this terrorist. You've made the case of us to end the use of public money to rehabilitate them, but more so, what can be done to curtail the recurrent deaths of high-ranking military officers?
I mean, in the hands of terrorists? I think a whole lot should be done. And first of all, I have to, doff my cap for, our gallant, military officers who, because I remember when I finished, was it secondary school or something, that I wanted to enter military, right? And I was so excited about it, and I had gone to tell my mother that I was going to enter military. Because my mother lived in the barrack, because she was a businesswoman, so she lived in the barrack and you understand the military so well. So I went to tell, and she told me that, do you know that you're going to sign your death warrant? You're going to sign your death warrant. So I didn't know that part of the military, because I lived, where we lived, I think it was in Port Harcourt, in Rainbow Town. You see a lot of military people, the way they dress, they polish, press their khaki and not dress up, look very sharp, those days. So I was excited, I wanted to join, and my mother told me that, first of all, that I need to sign my death. And my mother was so, this now about me, so he said, no, you're not going to join the military. So it was then I learned that the military, they have to sign their death warrant. So they are signing their death warrants for the protection of the rest of us. And therefore, military people should be people that we should respect so much. And it's people that the government should take special care. And every other part in the world, they are properly, taken care of. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, in our own case, politicians live in affluence, while our military people go through penury and go through pains. And to add salt to injury, they are now being exposed to a situation where some of these terrorists will be captured. So when they spend so much energy, take so much risk in capturing some of these terrorists, the terrorists themselves are being rehabilitated with a lot of money, and the military still live in penury. To the point that a military general, if in other parts of the world, like in the US, if, I don't know the lowest rank they have there, but if the lowest military person, even in academy, dies, the whole country will be thrown into turmoil. In short, when they started this war, there was a bomb that was mistakenly, they threw it, was it in Kuwait or something? 6 military officers died. And the whole country, even the people who were supporting the war, even the Americans like going to, but each time they lost their military people, you will see the concern. The president, if somebody dies, the president has to go himself to go and welcome. That is the important the place to the military. So we'll have a situation where not only that our military is not properly being taken care of, we have a situation where they are dying. In the last one, okay, you talk about the one that, a situation where it was abducted. That was it Christopher, that had almost escaped, from the terrorists, and his location was compromised and he was captured. So it's a very terrible situation, and it should put more fear on us, we ordinary people, the civilians. If our military people have been captured, abducted, died in abduction, if our military officers, high-rank generals are being killed, then what is now our fate? It's something that we should declare war on terrorism. It's not something we should treat with kid glove. It's not, this aspect of rehabilitating terrorists is saddening. I don't know how, I don't want to become emotionalist, but I don't know how we got to that point. I think it was the Buhari, because the Buhari regime is one government that came to, I don't know what that government had in mind to do, whether it was to actually fix this country or to destroy it. And it is this APC government, because unfortunately these days they are saying that, oh, Buhari government, because when we are saying that Buhari government was destroying this country, they were the one saying, no, Buhari is doing the most he can do. But thank God today, the same government that brought Buhari, the same people are now telling us that Buhari destroyed the country and they are trying to bring it together. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I think our military people and our politicians should use monies that's supposed to be used, for the country for public good. Because a situation where our politicians are driving in convoy, driving in exotic car, building mansions and all the rest of them, and the military people are being left behind. Because if the military people, if their morale are not high, the tendency that they will not do the utmost they are supposed to do is very high. So if the military is properly, somebody that have gone to sign his death warrant, if you, the West, if you know the history of the Yorubas, there's something that, is it Abakuko or something? The kings, Soyinka wrote one, the king horseman or something. So they have a tradition that the Oba, before, when he's leaving, he will have somebody that will be attending to him, he will be a servant. This person is somebody that anytime the Oba dies, the person dies with the Oba. But the thing is that while the man is living, he will be opportune to have every enjoyment, anything that he wants to eat, anything. So he will have every enjoyment. So if you liken it to that, our military people who have signed death warrant, who have signed their death to secure us, the least we can do to them is to give them everything that they need, every better comfort, welfare. Yes, better welfare, improved welfare, everything that they need.
But in actuality, one of the things that has made the rounds is the sentiments, regional sentiments when we discuss this issue, because many have compared it to the amnesty program for persons in the Niger Delta, whereas this so-called Operation Safe Corridor is also said to be meant for those who voluntarily surrender. Insurgents and bandits who surrender, they're treated to a 52-week period of rehabilitation and reintegration. What's your view of the global best practice in terms of the war and its terms of engagements in the cases of surrender and the comparisons with the amnesty program for militants?
I think we should tell ourselves the truth. We should be sincere to ourselves in this country. There's nothing wrong about agitation. In short, agitation is, part of process of building a country. There's nothing wrong. In short, we cannot all agree. Even in our homes, but the thing is that when people disagree, they should have terms of reference. What is it that you're disagreeing on? And your disagreement will not be that you're going to kill the other person because you disagree with him. When you talk about Niger Delta militancy, while I don't, like everything that they did, but everybody knows why they were agitating. Everybody knows that they are saying that there's oil in their place. And this oil is destroying their homes. Some of them are fishermen, they can't fish. Some of them are farmers. If you live in Niger Delta, you understand what we are talking about. And they are saying that a lot of money has been made from this region and this money has not been used to develop this region. So they have a case. And over time, some people took laws into their hand and said, we have to do something to make sure maybe, and they were not even going out killing people. They were like arresting people, like, okay, to make government, because the aim is to force government.
They kidnap some expatriates.
Yes, they kidnap, and majorly expatriates. It's true that there are some civilians that caught, in the process of doing that. But Nigerians knew why they were agitating. In the case of Boko Haram, in the case of this, what are they agitating
ISWAP.
Are these people, what are they, are they saying, like, for those of them who has made religious case, are they saying that all of us must become Muslim? Are they saying that we must convert to Islam?
And it's radicalism.
Are they saying that they should now become like, why the Constitution of Nigeria said that every citizen of this country should be educated? Why we have adopted, formal education or Western education as part of our Constitution? Are they saying that they have to now decide what should be, they will not be the constitution of the country? So I don't know. One should begin to explain to what is it that they want.
Mr. Kennedy, you made mention of declaring war against bandits and insecurity. It's in that light I would want to ask, given the present situation on ground by the Senate asking the federal government to actually do away with rehabilitation of the bandits and the Boko Haram into the military or the society, what do you think is going to be the legal, security, and economic implication of that statement? Should the federal government actually give credence to that statement?
No, the government should be more serious. There is no way, a ragtag group would be bigger and more powerful than our military. It's not possible. Our military is equipped. If they are properly equipped, Air Force will have the Navy, will have the military. In short, there was a time in this country where our military go for peacekeeping in other parts of Africa, even other parts of the world. In short, if you've read about them, you see that even in United Nations peacekeeping, they've been described as one of the best soldiers in the world, and they've gone to keep peace in other places. The truth about the matter is that insecurity has been politicized in this country. It has become an industry that makes a lot of money. There are people who want insecurity to continue so that they make money. The military itself has been politicized. Our politicians also have been politicized about insecurity. They use it for all manner of thing. I think there were some people rumored even why insecurity became so even much during 2014, 2015, especially in Buhari era. That I think it was even some of the APC chieftains that said that, oh, they brought in people because of Jonathan and not the rest of them. And when they brought in these people after the election, perhaps they couldn't keep to the terms of agreement. They couldn't know, And these people now, because when you arm a people, when you just like what happened in the East when ESN, Nnamdi Kanu and co, when they armed, for whatever reason they say they want to secure people, they arm people. When you it's not easy as you give those people gun to collect those guns. And at some point they also use that gun for their own selfish aim. It becomes a problem. So the thing is that our government should be serious. The reason why military is created is because we know it is actually factored in that there are going to be rogue actors, there are going to be non-state actors that want to compete with the state, and the state should be more powerful because the state is the only legal authority that have the absolute power of what do they call it now? They have the power of violence, legal power to unleash violence. So there is no way. If our government is the truth is that we are not serious. If we are serious, we declare war on these people, equip military
with the right political will.
Yes, if you have a political will, if you have a government that is nimble and responsible, these people cannot be more powerful than us.
All right.
The truth is that we have politicized it, and it has become a multi-million industry in Nigeria. Do you know how much that is being expended every day to curb insecurity from 2014 to this date? Billions of naira.
All right.
And we are not seeing. So the idea of rehabilitating people is actually to the people, because the same people who started this rehabilitation were the people, if you go and trace it, they are the people who started insecurity. They are the people who
all right, Mr. Kennedy, we have a little less than 2 minutes. Let's touch on one more thing before we say our goodbyes. Much like Mr. Kennedy has emphasized, the Operation Safe Corridor program, established in 2015 as Nigeria's primary framework for rehabilitating insurgents who surrender, has been considered to come to a halt as the Senate, through a motion sponsored by Senator Abdulaziz Musayyaradua on Tuesday, has gained prominence with votes supporting it. We'll find out if the government can end it forthwith. But notwithstanding, that was invoked by the killing of a retired military Major General Abubakar Rabi. However, for civilians, many would remember that the Orire kidnapped pupils and teachers have now spent day 50 in the abductors' den. And many are calling for the swift rescue of those children. But the technicality, owing to the fact that they can be used as human shields, has been one that has been purported along corridors discussing this. This morning, one of the prominent headlines said that intelligence sources have led to the arrest and tracking of some of the abductors' sponsors, but it hasn't mentioned if the location has been uncovered. What's your take on this in a minute or two as we wrap up?
Okay, I was actually trying to get to that news this morning as I was coming to the studio. It's a welcome development. Whatever news that has to do with finding those, because it's just an unfortunate situation. It's something that is heartbreaking. It's something that's mind-boggling that
children and their teachers have been abducted for how many days now? It's getting to a month now.
Over a month.
Over a month now.
50 days.
Okay, 50 days. Can imagine. Little wonder how time flies. And nothing has been done about them. I made the case at one sister station that it's like all of us are in captive situation. The only difference is that our own ransom have not been asked, because all of us every day walk on Nigerian road with fear
of, you know, who knows what the next thing. You can't sleep at night with your two eyes closed. So for these people, you know, our hearts and our prayers, you know, goes to them. So if this news this morning is actually a welcome development, I wish and pray that the government will act, you know, fast to make sure that these people are rescued. You know, these people's life can never be the same again. I read a story of a woman who came from the US, and she was adopted with her 9 years daughter. And these people took her to the bush and they wanted to rape the 9-year-old girl. And the woman said, let them, whatever they want to do to the daughter, let them do it to her, right? And these people ended up raping the lady and also raping the... These stories are stories that we hear on a daily basis that is heartbreaking. And the truth, Nigerians keep asking, when will this end? I hope that this news this morning is something that the agencies of government is going to follow through, you know, to make sure that these people are rescued. It is not the time to discuss our election. Election will come and go, but Nigerian citizens, you know, will still remain. They say the primary duty of government is to secure, you know, citizens, like, you know, welfare and property is the primary. That is the only thing. The primary, the basic minimum that government can do. So this news this morning is a welcome development. We hope they follow it through. We hope the perpetrators of this abduction has been, because at some point they wanted to.
When will this end? Is the last words of Mr. Kennedy Nwokocha. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us in the studios this morning. It was really a pleasure having you on the Morning Express. We'll have to run out of the studios now. We're way beyond time, but just so you know, on top of the hour, it will be time for sports. And today seems to be a day of rest for them. And seems Morocco and France will be meeting tomorrow for another loggerhead.
Yes, indeed.
And Mr. Vito, it seems like you have something to say about that?
Yes, indeed. And of course, qualifications for the European competitions, UEFA Champions League and Europa Cup competitions begin today as well. More drama will be told to you by our sports editor Samuel Adeleke, who will be in the studio to take you through ADBN Sports. My name is Beto Brian. Thank you for being a part of the program this morning.
And I am Cynthia. Wow, interesting.